And a very good Monday morning. Another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and as always, it is very nice to have you guys today. Very bad weather here on the East Coast this weekend and today as well. But a lot to talk about. A lot happened this weekend in the baseball world. But as always, before we start the show, to get your comments recognized, or to donate, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. That's to support the show. And also, to sign up for the Patreon, you go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network. And that's where you can get bonus coverage materials that are not covered by this live show. But yeah, like I said, I have a lot to talk about on today's show. So obviously what we normally do is we'll start off the show with going through the latest news and headlines around the league. Then we're going to talk about the American League West and what happened over the weekend with that, because there was a shift in that with the three teams. Rangers and Mariners played each other this weekend. The Astros played the Royals, and there were two sweeps in those regarding those two series, and it's one of them is not what you expected. So we'll get into that, and then we will get more into the American League playoff picture in the third segment. So we'll go over the other scores regarding that. With the AL East still up for grabs, Orioles still hold a lead over the Rays, and you got the Blue Jays involved with the American League West teams. So we'll get into that, and then in the final segment, we'll talk about the National League playoff picture and what happened with that. And I'll give a spoiler for that. Padres are done. I saw a TikTok, and they talked about the Padres too, and how there might be a possibility they could maybe sneak in. And the comments were, you're just doing that for clicks. Like it's not going to happen. Which, listen, I pretty much knew that it was going to be a long shot for it. But I thought, based on the schedule and the way teams were struggling and dealing with injuries, I thought, maybe there is a chance. But the Padres did lose over the weekend one of their games to the Cardinals in extra innings. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. Right now, their number to be eliminated is 2. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. But, hey, it was fun while it lasted, but listen, it's something that I said, so of course it's not going to happen. But yeah, so that's basically the rundown for today's show. So right now, with the first segment, let's get into some of the latest headlines. So one of the things, and I guess I'll get this out of the way. So the Yankees were eliminated from playoff contention, and Aaron Judge talked about it after the game. Yesterday, Yankees have lost the first 2 games to the Diamondbacks. They play Game 3 today because over the weekend there was a rainout. And he talked about how there's going to be a lot of internal discussions and, the seasons of failure and all that, and that changes need to be made. And listen, as a Yankee fan, I don't really... Well, first of all, there's really going to be no major changes regarding manager and general manager. Boone and Cashman are both going to be back. They just are. And the Yankees have had one of their worst seasons in years. And, it's crazy that there's not going to be major changes regarding that. So for me, it's like, well, what are the changes going to be? Now, you're hoping that they go out and they, maybe get some more left-handed bats. They get more contact guys. There's a lot they have to do. And I don't know if they're going to be able to solve it in one off season, because you look at the division and the Orioles are really good. They're not going anywhere. And I mentioned, and I've talked about this, in a previous show. The Orioles are not going anywhere. The Rays are not going anywhere. The Blue Jays are not going anywhere. And you figure the Red Sox, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be a very good team again. So where does that leave the Yankees? They got to catch up. Aaron Boone a couple years ago said, the league is catching up to us. The league has passed you. It has passed the Yankees for years, but for some reason they act like that's not the case. But so there'll be no playoffs for the Yankees this year officially, but we've known that for weeks. But they've just been pulling at us because they were still mathematically in it. But the Diamondbacks, though, that was important to take these first two games because they got that second wild card spot in the National League, and they're going for the sweep today. So it looks like they will be in the playoffs. They will be that second wild card team. But we'll see because we have approached. Because the other thing is this is the last week of the regular season. October 1st is the last day. So it goes into next week. But this is basically the last week of the regular season. And there's still a lot that needs to be decided with the wild cards, with some of the divisions. So we'll see. It's going to be a crazy final week. And speaking of divisions, so the Twins, they clinched the AL Central, which you knew was going to happen. With the teams behind them, the Guardians, they traded people. They kind of gave up on the season, and everybody else in the division is not really that good. The Royals, one of the worst records in baseball, but we'll get into why that really didn't matter this weekend. Later in the show, but the Twins, that was pretty much a wrap there, and now we'll just have to see who they play in the playoffs because they're going to play either an AL West team or they're going to play the Blue Jays. And again, anything can happen, but the Twins and their recent track record in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to last. I don't know if they're going to last in the playoffs, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. You don't want to guarantee anything, but that's kind of where I lean as of right now. But again, the way I've been talking about things, they could go far in the playoffs. But again, we will just have to wait and see on that. Also, over the weekend, and this was a big loss for the Reds, but the Pirates had their largest comeback in franchise history. They were down 9-0 to the Reds. I think was it on Friday, I believe, Friday's game. Take a quick look. It was not Friday. I think it was Saturday's game. Saturday's game. They were down 9-0 going into the fourth inning, and they scored 1 in the fourth, 5 in the sixth, 3 in the seventh, 4 in the eighth, and then the Reds put up 3 runs between the eighth and the ninth inning, and they fell short, 13-12. So yeah, they blew a 9-0 lead, the Reds, which again, and we'll go into it in the final segment when we talk about the wild card and just the National League playoff picture in general, but that is not a loss you want to have at this point in the year. And blowing a 9-0 lead. Now, it's happened before. Bring up the Yankees very quickly. 2012, the Yankees were down 9-0 against the Red Sox at Fenway, and they came back and they won that game. I think it was like 15-9. Was it 15-9? I don't know, but it was. I know the Yankees had 15 runs. I don't know if the Red Sox scored again, but it's happened before. But for the Pirates, this is the largest comeback in franchise history. And quick thing with the Pirates, so they were eliminated from playoff contention. And a quick thing, so in high school, a good friend of mine, we made a bet, and it was a very dumb bet, but it's still going. I think this was like the 4th or 5th year that this bet's been going on. So for every year that the Pittsburgh Pirates do not win the World Series, he has to pay me $1. And the year that they win the World Series, I have to pay him $100. Now, what the term should have been was, for every year that the Pirates don't win, that dollar is subtracted from the $100 that I owe him, which I did not do. Did not think. So, but I am right now 4 or 5. I honestly don't remember. It was either 4 or 5 years. But yeah, every year that they don't win, I get $1. Now the Pirates, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. And they got off to a very good start this year. And it looked like, hey, maybe this is the year that they, finally make it back to the postseason. And that was not the case. That was not the case. So, who knows? But once again, got my my yearly dollar from my friend. So, again, there's always next year. And they just tried to get me so nervous. They were like, oh, the Pirates are doing really good. Oh, this could be. And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. And guess what? Then they tanked. They went under 500, and then that was it. So, but, hopefully better days are ahead for Pirates fans, because that's another fan base that's really been itching for something. I mean, they had those few years where they did make the playoffs, and they had some good teams, but they just never could get past the division series or even the wild card sometimes. I mean, they lost to the Giants. One of the years the Giants won the World Series, I think it was was it 2014 or 2012? I think it was one of those 2 years. Yeah, they just can't get out of their own way. But yeah, so, and then another thing, this was another thing I saw. So Mookie Betts 105 RBIs, most RBIs out of a leadoff spot in a single season, and he's having an incredible season. Now, unfortunately for him, and there's an article that MLB came out with, a lot of the key storylines going into the final week, and one of them is the MVP race. It's going to be Ronald Acuna. But Mookie Betts has had an incredible season, and also Matt Olson, of course, of the Braves. And we talked about that last week. But it's safe to say, I think, at this point, that Acuna is going to get the MVP. He's got 40 home runs now, almost 70 stolen bases. I mean, he's been awesome this year. And if it wasn't for that, then, Mookie's got a great shot. I mean, he still does, but Acuna is, I think, MVP. So, and also my friend sent a poll, and it was, what MVP would you rather have, 2023 Acuna or 2022 Judge? And it was like a wide gap. I gotta let me see if I could find it. Yeah, a lot of people picked Acuna. Now that could be because not people don't like the Yankees, but I mean, what Acuna is doing is amazing. I mean, around 70 stolen bases. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but yeah, it was a Twitter poll, or X. It's always gonna be Twitter. But, oh yeah, here it is. I found it. So, yeah, 76% picked Acuna, 24% picked Judge. I mean, listen, I don't really care if Acuna's got more. What I care more so about is, like, the gap. That it's just, like, that lopsided, that more people picked Acuna. I think it should be a little bit closer, but again, everybody's got a different opinion. But Acuna's having a great season, an amazing season. It's just, I mean, Judge hit 62 home runs last year. The most in the American League history. I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it should be a little bit closer, but I can understand why. But, it's a Yankee fan talking. And again, I'm not saying that Judge should, be leading in that poll. Most people should have picked Judge. I mean, Acuna is one of the best players in baseball, in his own right. I mean, I think Judge is a better hitter when he's healthy, but, I mean, Acuna's having a season for the ages with what he's doing. So I just think that the gap is just too wide there, but that's all right. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the headlines. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the American League West. We are going to give an American League West update because a lot of stuff happened over the weekend regarding that. So when we come back, we'll discuss that. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.